Welcome everyone. Glad to see you on my channel. Today I will tell you about an unusual story, an amazing story about companionship and love. I wish you a pleasant audience.
Hey, wake up! Stop sleeping already. I'm talking to you. A bright light hit my eyes. Well, no, it's the day off. What does she want again? Max reluctantly opened his eyes and squinted against the bright rays that filled every corner of the bedroom. You promised you'd help around the house today, his mother barked. She looked a little better today than yesterday. Her face not as pale, her eyes had regained their natural hue. Mother had been sick for a long time, so there were few good days in her life. Okay, Max reached up and threw off the blanket, just a little. You're a pain in the ass with your chores. Stop it. If you'd done something useful at home without me reminding you, I'd be quiet. That's it, Mom. I'm up. Okay. The Stone family lived in a small private home. Max's mother, Catherine, an orphan, had moved to Landers 10 years ago. Her husband had long ago left his wife and son and started a new family. Ekaterina grieved for a long time and could not watch her ex wooing his new fling and reverently treating his newborn daughter. One day, on a cold fall evening, she met him at a local store. The man was buying milk. I see that you are doing well. You have money and your wife loves you. You've got a daughter, but we're at home without a piece of bread. I can't find a job at all. Can you give me some money? The man thought for a while and replied with his eyes downcast. I can't. I bought some milk with the last of it. You're a miser. How can the earth bear such people? You feed one child, so you forget about the other one. Damn you and your new family, you won't live happily with them. If Catherine then guessed what energy carried her words, thrown with grief. Indeed, little Max grew quickly and constantly wanted to eat. It was necessary to take care of a warm jacket and boots for the child, because it was already November, and the boy still wore a thin windbreaker and light boots. Where to get money? There was little work in a provincial town. There was only one thing left, to try to beg money from her ex-husband. But he turned out to be the last goat. Catherine had only to risk. Gathering all the strength and her patience, she decided to move to the village under the colorful and unremarkable name Landers. There just opened a dairy factory. It needed workers. It is impossible to describe how difficult it was for the little family to get used to the new place. Kind people managed to get the local administration to provide the young woman and her son with a small dilapidated shack on the outskirts of the village. The village women helped Ekaterina to tidy up the house. They painted the windows and doors and whitewashed the walls. The men repaired the ancient bed with springs and the old chest of drawers. Catherine was now able to live poorly. The woman was quickly employed as a cleaner at the factory and life was slowly getting better. A few years later, Catherine learned from acquaintances in her native village that her ex-husband had divorced his new wife and died under unknown circumstances. The autopsy did not find the cause of death. The woman then thought that it was just a coincidence or the boomerang principle. But it wasn't like that. Her son's voice brought the woman out of her painful memories. Ma'am, and what's for breakfast? Catherine sighed and went to the kitchen to warm yesterday's food in the microwave. The family was not very poor, but not lavish either. Max had never once in his life tasted exotic fruits, expensive chocolate, caviar. But he knew hundreds of dishes made of potatoes, carrots, and lard. A simple life, modest demands. Max's mother didn't spoil her son. Even on holidays, she bought the most necessary products and filled the refrigerator with them. The rest of her paycheck was hidden in her dresser drawer in old underwear. She knew what it was like to go through hard times without money. While her son ate fried potatoes and salad, the woman started her household chores. She thoroughly checked the refrigerator, cleaned it of spoiled food. Then she decided to clean up the old shed in the yard. The woman put on her coat and went outside. January, but there wasn't even a hint that it was winter outside. Landers village was soaking wet in the pouring rain. I'll have to look for rubber boots. You can't walk through the village that easily now. It's all muddy, Catherine thought and wrinkled her nose. She did not like neither winter nor autumn for such weather. But what could be done? One must work, move. Despite the constant migraines, the woman always worked tirelessly. Son, the mother closed her eyes tiredly. Everything is fine again. I told you that Uncle was a liar. He was too stubborn to insist on a second examination. He took so much money out of us. Max, stop fighting. You promised to help me around the house. Mop the floors and bring fresh water from the well. I'll go to the store." The son looked at his mother in surprise. "You can barely stand on your feet. I need some fresh air. And in general, eggs do not teach the chicken." She hurriedly packed, took her purse, and left the house. The rain had already ended, and the road turned into a muddy mess. But Catherine did not pay attention to this unpleasant fact. She enjoyed breathing in the humid air and needed rubber boots, black mush underfoot. The woman found the boots in the shed. She rejoiced at the find, as if a pair of old galoshes could save the world, or Catherine, from doing time in four walls. The store Jubilee was a place where those who had nothing to do at home gathered. Lovers of gossip and gossip, alcoholics, asking for a loan for a bottle, kids, looking with great respect at the alkies. Near the store was always noisy and cheerful. Ekaterina looked at the crowd. Today she, strange, nowhere to be found. Where did that old woman disappear to? You must be looking for Kathy. She's not here, the old man mumbled through his toothless mouth. Where is she, Harry? I need to ask her something. Oh, she's at the wake. She won't miss a meal. She's just looking for a free meal. How could I forget? Catherine reproached herself. Today is also the day to remember Julia, a neighbor and good friend of Kathy's. 9 days. Thank you, Harry. I'll go. Listen, Granddad's a bit slow. Have you got a spare penny for bread? Oh, Harry, I know what kind of bread you want. I'd rather give it to the kids for candy. Stop drinking. Grandpa's got a hurt look on his face. I knew you were a cheapskate. You hide all your money in your stocking. Everyone at the factory earns good money. Only you, like a homeless woman walking around. Catherine waved Harry away as from an annoying fly and wandered towards the courtyard where the wake was to be held. She had completely forgotten that she still had to go to the store. Julia's yard was like a beehive today, though it was usually quiet, with the old woman occasionally going outside to talk to her neighbors. Almost the whole village had gathered to remember the good old woman. Julia was an excellent teacher in the local school. She was loved by all adults and children. There was no place to step foot in the house. The sharp smell of wax, mopped floors, food, and vodka hit Catherine's nose. Across the long corridor stretched a string of wooden tables covered with cheap cloth tablecloths. There was nothing on the tables anymore. People, merry and drunk, were arguing loudly about who would get the deceased house. Catherine wrinkled unpleasantly at the sight. Finally, in the farthest and darkest corner, she found Kathy. The old woman was sitting hunched over, humming a sad song to herself. Catherine cautiously called out to her. Kathy stirred and raised her watery eyes to the woman. "I know why you've come. I've been waiting here for you," she whispered unexpectedly to Catherine. "Help me," the woman whispered, almost crying. "You're looking for a witch," Katie said affirmatively. "Only your visit to her will not bring you what you expect. Think carefully. A witch always reveals her cards to you. She reads your whole life. When you die, when you marry, how many children you'll have. She'll tell you the bitter truth too. She won't lie. But do we need this truth? I went to see her and now I hate myself." "What happened?" Catherine asked cautiously. "She told me the whole truth about my death and about the death of my children. She saw that my children will go to the other world before me." The old woman closed her eyes and sobbed with a groan. Catherine from horror froze on the spot. "I need it very badly. I do not know what kind of illness I have. I'm desperate. Maybe the witch will tell me." "She will, and she'll tell you things you won't be happy about." "All right. Since you've decided, I'll tell you where she lives. It's gonna be a long, long walk. Do you know where the abandoned brick factory?" Catherine nodded. She remembered that building. It was the first one the woman had seen when she first arrived in Landers. So Kathy continued, "You'll pass the building, turn right. From there, the road turns into a path. You go straight down the path. Don't turn around. This path leads deep into the woods. That's where the witch lives. She used to live in the village, but the locals, having learned about her evil and dark deeds, decided to set fire to the old woman's house. So she moved into the forest." Katie was silent. She closed her eyes again. Catherine thought she was dozing off. "Thank you very much," the woman replied quietly and hurried out the door. The house was stuffy. Her head ached again. Dark shadows flashed before her eyes. Catherine sat down on the bench. "Get out of my sight. Enough. I want to live in peace." Ghostly images, rapidly flickering in front of her eyes, had long interfered with life. It seemed as if an unknown force had invaded his head and was trying to command his body. Max had been scared out of his wits when his mother decided to leave for the store on her own after another migraine attack. He gave the woman a look and decided to do some cleaning. Everyone in the village called Max the White Crow. The boy stood out because he didn't socialize with anyone and stayed away from his classmates. Max was an introvert, often withdrew into himself, and did not want to let outsiders into his life. It was this characteristic that prevented the guy from building relationships and getting to know new people. Max had a secret sympathy in the class, the leader of the team and the most beautiful girl in the school, Angelica. True, she did not reciprocate Max and, like everyone in the class, considered him strange. The girl used her beauty and gathered crowds of young fans. Max secretly envied all the good-looking guys of the school for the fact that they could talk to her calmly, throw modern jokes. "That's okay. Here I'll study, get into a prestigious university, and get a good job. Girls have always loved money and wealth. Angelica will bite me like a fish on the bait," dreamed the young man. Indeed, the boy recently began to study on excellent, often took part in Olympiads, but the team stubbornly did not want to accept him. Once at recess, classmate Victoria approached Max and sarcastically grinned. "Listen, there is such news about your mom. They say that she is crazy on the whole head. Is that true?" "Get off, Victoria." Max shrank into a lump, and "Without you, there is something to do." "So it's true if there's nothing to answer," Victoria blurted out and laughed. "It'll be fun when I tell everyone about it." Max clenched his teeth and hissed, punching a notebook page with his pen. "Listen, Victoria, what do you want?" "Nothing." The girl showed her tongue, turned around and ran down the hall. What a goat. She'll tell everyone now. After all, just like her mother is the first gossip in the village, thought Max bitterly. He packed his things, notebooks and books. There was no desire to study. He wanted to run home, find a dark corner and cower in it, to hear no one and nothing, turn to stone. On his way out of the school, the boy noticed a bunch of cackling students. They were pointing fingers at Max and yelling. They were videotaping what was going on. "Hey, White Crow, come here," yelled the tallest and fattest among them, John. Max hated him for his brash nature and sharp tongue. "Well," looking straight into the daredevil's eyes, Max replied. "Is it true that your mom is that? Well, we'll soon go to a mental institution." "No," firmly threw the guy. "In general, it's none of your business. Got it?" "Oh, what a tsatsa," grumbled John and played with his muscles. "No one talks to me so brazenly. Who do you think you are, you worm? I could crush you with one hand." "Try it," Max replied. The soul has long ago flowed into the heels, but the guy stubbornly tried not to show his condition. "I can also fight." The classmates looked at each other, and someone giggled in disbelief. Max saw from the sidelines that Angelica was here too. "Well, what's the matter?" he thought to himself sullenly and clenched his skinny fists. You can't show your cowardice in front of the main love of your life. What happened next, Max still does not remember. Only pain and resentment. 3 strong and healthy guys against a skinny nerd. What else is there to think about? Then Max spent a very long time in the local ancient hospital. The parents of the offenders tearfully begged his mother not to file a report at the children's police station. And only a thick wad of money from Boris' father resolved the whole situation. Mother just needed an impressive sum for further examination. Max didn't speak to her for a long time. Then he withdrew into himself. Only after a week, he led his mother near him and gave her a chance to explain everything. Max, even after this deplorable case, continued to be called a black sheep, but now he had made friends against Boris and his evil company of insolence. Angelica still did not pay any attention to the guy. One day he himself decided to approach the girl at recess. Here, he handed her a small bar of chocolate. Angelica rounded her eyes and looked at the guy questioningly. "What's that for? Did you put needles in it?" No, I just wanted to make someone happy. Angelica grinned and showed the guy her white teeth. Why don't you go over to that one, Stinky? She likes candy. I don't eat sweets. Stinky was a girl whose weight had long ago exceeded 70 kilograms. Max froze at the unexpected turn of events. You'll see, you'll be with me all your life. Your friends will envy me. He didn't wait for an answer, quickly turned around and ran. He ran for a long time until he saw his own wicket. Max ran into the house, threw the heavy backpack off his shoulders, and fell face down on the bed. How annoying everything was. This poverty, the mother, her unknown illness, or was it his own delusional fabrications to draw more attention to himself? Max woke up to the banging of the front door. The boy had long since cleaned the house and now sat at the table, rubbing the wrapper of that ill-fated chocolate bar in his hands. Son, the woman smiled when she saw the order and cleanliness. I did not expect. You're a good boy. Listen, I wanted to go to the store for groceries, but I never got there. Go please. Get some milk, bread, eggs, and something for yourself. Max frowned, but took his purse and quickly went out the door. The weather was improving. It would be evening with sunshine and no clouds. He walked along the road, sometimes jumping over huge puddles, which very soon were destined to freeze. Catherine had not in vain asked her son to go to the store. She waited until he disappeared, put on boots and a warm jacket. In the linen closet found an envelope full of bills. She counted out a few papers, rolled them into a two, and carefully put them in her pocket. Maybe that old woman would ask for payment. She took a piece of paper and carelessly scribbled the words, "Son, I've decided to go to Leslie's house. Don't worry, I'm fine. I'll be there at night. So go to bed and don't wait up for me. Make some scrambled eggs for dinner. Love you." Catherine put the note on the nightstand beside her son's bed and hurriedly dressed. I'll go, maybe the witch will tell me what ailment is troubling my head, thought the woman. The journey was long and dangerous. It was said that the late owner of the brickyard suspected his wife of jealousy. One day he caught her with another man in his bedroom. The man couldn't get over the cheating. He killed them immediately and hid the bodies in his factory. 6 months later, the owner took his own life. He saw the ghost of his dead wife and lover everywhere. Rumor has it that the souls of the undead still roamed the factory and scare stalkers who accidentally wandered into the abandoned building. Ekaterina didn't really believe in this story, but still, as the woman approached the factory, her heart was not at ease. Turn right, echoed Kathy's words. An old, nettled path beckoned into the forest thicket. The woman sighed and followed the path. The desire to get rid of the incomprehensible headache and migraine was above all fears and phobias. Well, witch, meet me, said Catherine to herself, seeing in the distance a dilapidated hut. The place where the dark witch lived, banished from the village, was truly mystical. It was cold, mossy, and damp. It seemed that even the most ordinary stone could come to life here. There was a pungent fog in the air, so the woman could not see the area well. Suddenly her head exploded with wild pain. Catherine groaned loudly, fell to her knees. In her head, as always, multicolored lights, figures, shadows flashed. But now there was another shadow among them, the biggest and tallest. It was as if my brain was being slowly fried in the frying pan of hell. Well, hello, little girl, sounded above Catherine's head rough female voice. I've been waiting for you here for a long time. Catherine tried to lift her head, but in vain. She was bound by a new wave of pain. The woman groaned and fell on the damp grass, completely exhausted. Suddenly, someone's warm palm laid on her head, and miraculously, the pain gradually began to go away. Muscles relaxed, and Catherine breathed a sigh of relief. Who are you? How did you do it? My daughter, you still do not know a lot about yourself, but it's good that you've come now. Now I can tell you everything. What? What do you mean? I don't understand. Quietly muttered the old woman. Give me your hand, I'll help you up. Don't be afraid of me. You're shaking. Poor thing. Come to my house. I'll give you some healing tea. Catherine looked incredulously at the vague figure of the witch. I told you not to be afraid of me. You should be afraid of those who live in the village and spread evil rumors. When they entered the hut, Catherine was surprised. In the house reigned the usual, classic for a villager, the interior. In the tiny hallway rack with clothes, then a small living room. In the living room, there was a dilapidated sofa, a table, a black and white TV set, and flowers in various pots on the windows. Nothing special. The only difference Catherine noticed was the lack of icons. In Landers, every villager had icons, decorated with embroidered rushniki, flowers, and lamps. And here there were empty corners. Well, that's nothing new. Why would a godless woman need icons? Thought Catherine. Meanwhile, the witch went into the kitchen and rattled something there. A few minutes later, she came out with a large mug in her hands. The mug exuded a very appetizing odor. Did you look around? See, I don't have what you thought I had. I don't need all this stuff. It's all here. She pointed her finger at her head. Then why were you called the witch? The old woman wrinkled her forehead and answered quietly, ordinary people don't like white crows. But you, I think, know what I mean. Catherine nodded. Take it, drink your tea. Don't be afraid, I don't want to poison you. It will become much easier. There are herbs that I collect in the forest. The woman hesitantly took the mug and took one small sip. The liquid immediately spread to the stomach and warmth enveloped it. Catherine greedily sipped some more. Well, not so much headache, asked the witch. Yes, excuse me, what's your name? Well, for real. Glafira. I don't remember when anyone ever wanted to call me by my real name. People from the village come to see me secretly, but they all call me witch. But I'm not angry, I'm used to it. Catherine drank tea and looked curiously at the old woman. Gray hair gathered in a neat bundle at the back of the head, gray, like the autumn sky, eyes, and lips. Her face, arms, and neck were riddled with deep wrinkles. Glafira, I come to see you. I know I told you. The old woman interrupted her. You have headaches, shadows in your eyes. It's not a disease, daughter. It's your destiny. What do you mean? Catherine asked me with a surprised, rounded mouth. She had already finished her tea and visibly relaxed. The healing drink of herbs helped. You are a hereditary witch, dumbfounded her old woman, not in the first generation. Don't look for doctors and witch doctors anymore. Your headache is not from illness. It's your gift. What are you talking about? Catherine shrieked. She stood up abruptly and wanted to go to the exit. You can, of course, now leave, my daughter, sounded behind me a quiet voice. But your departure will not change anything in life. You have to accept yourself as you are. I will help you. I know how to make migraines disappear forever. Catherine stopped, paused, and turned to Glafira. You are delirious, she whispered. What kind of witch am I? I don't even know my parents. But I do, muttered the old woman. She walked over to the woman and took her hands. I know where they are. Your grandmother is dead, but your mother is alive. Believe me, and your life will change for the better. Do you really want your son to suffer the rest of his life because you're suffering? It was an irrefutable argument to stay at Glafira's place and listen to the end. Catherine loved Max very much and knew that he was worried about her. Okay, I'll listen to you, she said quietly. That's good for you. I knew that you are not stupid. Glafira said cheerfully and offered the woman to sit at the round table. I'm going to talk now. You listen carefully and memorize. On what you learn depends not only on your life, but also the happiness of your son. Catherine nodded and crossed her arms on her chest, ready to listen. A long time ago, when I was still young, your mother, Veronica, and I were firm friends. We met in the capital when we entered the same faculty. I knew about my gift then, but she had no idea. When the time came, I explained to her why she suffers from continuous headaches and sees things that ordinary people cannot see. At first, Veronica didn't believe me and even stopped communicating with me. She's stubborn, but one incident made her doubt herself. A classmate dreamed to her, completely bloodied and begging for help. Veronica woke up in wet sweat and tears. The next morning, we all found out that Carlos, our friend from the course, had crashed to death in the night. That's when my friend told me about her dream. I let her know once again that your mother has a gift and it must be used. We reconciled, became closer, supported each other. Young girls often came to visit us, until one evening an uninvited guest came. Glafira was silent. What kind of guest? Catherine exclaimed. The story the witch was telling was more like a legend, but not the truth. But the thought that her mother might be alive warmed her soul and curiosity took over. The woman, she was inconsolable, said she wanted me to cast a spell on her rival, her fiance's mistress. They were getting married, but the guy obviously liked to go out. I, of course, refused. Veronica and I did not practice evil magic at that time. We believed in the boomerang principle. The woman cried and said that she would give everything valuable that she had. Only I must remove my rival. She laid out all of her jewelry on the table. Among them was one very remarkable ring, thin, dainty, with an exquisite ruby in the middle, but something repulsed me at the sight of it. When I took the ring in my hands and twirled it, I had a vision. The ring fulfills all my wishes. I am the happiest woman on earth. And next to me is Anthony, my fiancé. He was dating your mother at the time. Apparently, I was seduced by an evil force, but I promised to put a spell on the groom's mistress in exchange for one single ruby ring. The woman was over the moon. She gladly agreed, and I began the initial stage of the ritual that evening. You should have seen me when I found out the spell had worked. The girl disappeared a week after the ritual was completed and still hasn't been found. You were scared? Asked Catherine, sighing convulsively. What a story. Of course I was. I was too young then to know about such terrible consequences of spoiling. I thought that just the groom will fall out of love with the girl, but it was not so. The guy burned before his eyes like a candle. He was longing for the other one. So that woman, instead of love, got only grief. Since then, I became very worried that the cherished boomerang will come to me. What about the ring? Was it really magic? Could it grant wishes? Glafira sighed and rubbed her temples. The ring was magic. Some powerful witch had put her powers on it. So once I put it on, I couldn't take it off. It became my master. Turns out it was the other way around. I didn't control it. It controlled me. How? I had a huge fight with Veronica. I took Anthony away from her. We bought a big apartment in the capital, but God wouldn't let us have kids. I guess the ring didn't want it. Anthony was looking forward to having children, but he never did. In a few years, our life together turned into hell. I abandoned the university a long time ago. I began to practice black magic and even found success in this business. I didn't like it all very much, but the ring decided everything for me. Veronica, meanwhile, got a new fiancé. They got married. They had you and another younger girl, your sister. Strangely enough, she didn't have the powers you had. But she lived many happy years, enjoying everyday moments. I shall never have that luxury, alas. And what happened next? Catherine asked with interest. Further worse. Anthony left me to a young girl topsy-turvy. I was left all alone. No friends, no husband, no family. Everyone dismissed me as a leper. There were already rumors going around the city that I was not to be messed with. One day I was walking in the park, hoping to find some way to get rid of the ring. Can you believe it? I didn't have the strength to take it off. It was like it was part of me. And then I saw Vera on one of the benches. She was rocking her stroller and humming something to herself. When she saw me, she smiled. "Hi, how are you?" she asked me. I replied that it could be better and told my ex-girlfriend my story. That's weird. Veronica was surprised then. Do you seriously believe in this nonsense? I then got very angry with her and began to shout that your mother is a fool, does not understand anything about magic. Veronica just smiled back. You're very unhappy, I can see that. But the ring has no power over you. Give it to me and go away. You'll see. This object won't stop you. The ring came off surprisingly easily. I quickly gave it to my friend and ran away. It was like a stone fell from my heart. Vera now had the ill-fated ring. So she threw it away? Catherine asked, biting her lip. No, answered Glafira quietly. The ring found a new victim with the same gift as mine. Verochka has lived a very difficult life. She lost her children. Your younger sister, Victoria, ran away from home when she was 16, all because it was impossible to be at home. Veronica became a real black sorceress. Your father died of a heart attack. It's not time yet, Glafira repeated for the third time. Not soon, believe me. Veronica will be much more vulnerable. Your sister. Ah. Catherine only now remembered that the witch had said something about her sister, Victoria. She doesn't remember anything at all. Could these migraines and dark silhouettes be echoes of the past? Victoria must die, Glafura continued, rubbing the corner of the tablecloth. What? What is this nonsense? No way, jumped Catherine. I still want to see her. You have no right to talk like that. Glafura got up slowly and went to a cupboard standing close to the window. She opened it and rummaged through it for a long time. After a few minutes, she placed the contents of the cupboard on the table where Catherine was sitting. A black wax candle, tarot cards, and worst of all, a straw doll. Don't be afraid. I won't spoil you, she smiled, noticing Catherine's pale face. I need to think. The witch laid out the cards in a certain order. In the middle put the doll and lit a black candle. The room lit up with a mysterious flickering light. The witch whispered something for a long time, looking at the candle. Then she took the doll and gently pressed her fingernail directly on its head. It was the first time Catherine had seen such a ritual, and she was frightened. But the fear gave way to a desire to know the truth and help her son. It must have been hours when Glafira finally extinguished the candle. Daughter, your life is hard enough as it is, but you have to make sacrifices. Your sister's death is written on her fate line. There's no escaping it. So accept this news without anger. She's been ill for a long time. She has cancer, so death will free her from her torment. And the mother Veronica will be much weaker with Victoria gone. I'm sorry to tell you all this. Tears glistened in Catherine's eyes. Just yesterday, she was living an ordinary life, struggling with seizures, getting treatment, raising her son. She knew absolutely nothing about her past life, although she wanted to know so badly, and now everything is turned upside down. All the women in her family are witches. The sister she doesn't remember must have passed away long before they met. And Glafira assures her that she can't escape from fate. What nonsense. Ekaterina, I believe you can't decide anything now. Here, Glafira handed the woman a pouch that smelled fragrant. This is a tea for your pains. With these, the shadows will become clearer and you can see the future. When you're ready, I'll give you your mother's address. I'm ready, right now, Catherine exclaimed. Give me the address. But Glafira shook her head negatively. You are not ready. Need to be calm and sober-minded. Go home for now. Remember, your son mustn't know anything about his relatives. They'll drive him to his grave. Catherine woke up near an abandoned brick factory. How the woman got to the building, she did not remember at all. In the head, rarely it was clear, and there was no pain. Catherine quickly walked toward the house. Max did not like to wander around the village, did not want to draw attention to himself. But today his mother asked him to go shopping, so he should. One more time he'd see people pointing fingers at him. He'll hear the giggles behind him. That's fine. Time to get used to it. The fat, sullen saleswoman crossed her arms over her chest. Well, how long are you going to choose? I need to get the goods, she said unhappily. I want that milk and 10 eggs. Do you have bread? Asked the guy, shuffling from foot to foot. The saleswoman snorted angrily. No, of course not. You should have come earlier. The bread is always gone by evening. I see, Max replied. He paid for the eggs and milk and ran out of the store. Why is she so disgusting? Angelica is nothing like her mother. She's so thin, graceful, beautiful. Angelica's mother wouldn't want her child dating a white raven. That's fine. Let it be what it is. The boy walked along the curb. His classmates were going to the evening party near the local club. Max never went there. Hey, Popper, John yelled and whistled. What are you carrying in your bag? Hello to you, too, Max muttered. I'm carrying what I need. Look at that asshole, John laughed. He looked like a huge goose with red eyes. Guys, he wants to go to the hospital again. All right, John, grab him. A girl came out of the crowd. Come on, don't touch him. Let him go on his way. What are you doing? Angelica, sticking up for him. Did you think it over? You have to put people like him in their place, or he opened his mittens and does not know that in the elite must be silent. Max resolutely bypassed the noisy crowd and was about to go further, but he was stopped by a strong blow in the back. The boy fell. Joanne? Enough. Angelica, stay out of this. You'll get it too, I promise you. I said leave the man alone. Max was face down in the mud, afraid to get up. You don't hit a man when he's lying down. Well, you goat, came John's indignant voice. Are you my chief or not? You're supposed to listen to me. Fuck you. Max clearly heard Angelica's shout and quickly stood up. A crowd of classmates were yelling. Someone was filming everything on their phone. How predictable. A pack of hyenas laughing while they beat up their friend. John stood with his arms crossed over his chest, while Angelica lay head down. Well, are you sure you're going to defend this one? He asked the crying girl. You're drunk, she yelled. John laughed and kicked the girl with his foot. She screamed in pain. Max couldn't take it anymore. He clearly realized that he would probably die in this unequal battle. But Angelica had suffered at the hands of this freak. His secret love was now lying in a puddle like a rag doll. I'm going to kill you, whispered Max. Oh, it's up, yelled John, all red with excitement. He looked like a huge bull ready to pummel everyone with his horns. Stop touching her. You. Max struck first, but the mountain of fat and muscle didn't even budge. Brawst, attack. This little thing wants to die, John yelled. But the crowd froze at the sight. Angelica stood all dirty and wet with tears and water. She was trembling. Max also wrinkled, froze with clenched fists and a determined look. Well, why are we standing? The mountain was surprised. I do not understand. Borka, you're overreacting. Boria, let's go. Leave them. Let's go. Calm down. What? John yelled. So you're with me? Well, watch me kill this one, you freak. Don't you dare close your eyes. Angelica sobbed. But Max was the first to hit the mountain. The forces were unequal. One more moment, and the guy stopped feeling anything. Max did not see how part of the crowd rushed to John and began to defend the weak. John was yelling and fighting back. Angelica didn't even try to run away. Her legs didn't carry the girl. It was hurt and painful. She sat under a tree and cried. The guy woke up in the hospital. Every cell was aching. I wanted to die. Max groaned and turned his head toward the window. Sonny, you scared me. Are you okay? Mom said. Mom, I'm fine. It just hurts. A warm hand lay on the boy's head. Catherine cried quietly. My boy, they put them in the children's police room. There they will deal with them. If it had not been for the district police officer who passed by the road in time, there is no telling what would have happened. Why did you fight with Borka? Max whispered quietly. Mom, he hurt Angelica, his girlfriend. Angelica. Oh yes, she came to see you. She's waiting in the hallway. Shall I call her? What? Max was surprised. He wanted to get up on the bed, but his mother stopped him. Where? You can't get up. You have a broken rib. She'll be right in. The mother went out the door, and a minute later Angelica entered the room. On her thin shoulders fluttered a white medical coat. Well, hello, daredevil, she sighed. Didn't your mother tell you that you are a fool? You found someone to fight with. He could have killed you. Hi, Max said excitedly. You better tell me, how are you doing? Did he beat you badly? The girl sighed. There are a few bruises, but it's no big deal. John is in the children's room of the police, you know. Yeah, justice was served. Max, where's the justice? Now his parents are dealing with everything. Soon he'll be out and he'll be climbing again. Max sighed. Of course, such news is not happy, but Angelica around is cool. She talks to him so gently, wondering how he's doing. Even a broken rib is worth it. I know. The girl leaned over him so low that Max felt Angelica's breath. You were protecting me because you like me. Those words, like lightning, burned through Max's entire body. He didn't answer and glared at the ceiling. You don't have to answer, Angelica smiled. I've known that for a long time. You're not very handsome, but you're brave. I like that kind of guy, so I'll be waiting for you at school. And don't stay in the hospital too long. Unexpectedly, Angelica leaned over Max and kissed him on the cheek. With another smile, she scurried out the door. Max wanted to smile, but couldn't. His battered face ached. His mother entered the room again. Her face expressed both concern and curiosity. Mom, don't ask anything. It's just that I defended her. A classmate came to thank me. Son, you should see yourself now, laughed Catherine. Eyes give away everything. Angelica you like? Max nodded. Well, she is very polite and pretty, but her mother is a bit of a bitch. You're all grown up now, son. The mother petted her son. He lay there replaying Angelique's innocent kiss. It had been several months since Max had gotten out of the hospital. His ribs and leg were still aching and constantly making themselves known. So the boy studied at home. Angelica brought him his assignments. It was warm May. Final exams were approaching. Max had no time to be distracted by anything else but preparation for the final exams. Angelica also tried. They wanted to enter the same technical school in the district center. Catherine was happy for her son that blossomed and became much more confident. Between him and Angelica began a relationship. At first, the girl hesitated, a little afraid that the collective will laugh. But classmates, strangely enough, were on the side of the girl. John was already out of favor. Everyone already knew that the rich parents paid for the guy to be released. They even offered money to Catherine for her to withdraw the application. The mother refused the money, but she took the application. The headaches no longer tormented the woman. Every day, as Glafira had told her, she brewed aromatic tea and drank it with pleasure. Max, of course, asked what it was, but Catherine lied. She said it was a special sedative for headaches. The son was incredibly pleased when he learned that his mother no longer suffers from migraines. Catherine had been nurturing what she had learned from the witch in the dark forest. She waited for some sign from Glafira. It's hard to sit and wait, knowing that somewhere lives a mother. The woman began to dream strange dreams more and more often. Here she is driving on a deserted road. A woman sits behind the wheel. She smiles and says she's been dreaming of this trip all her life. But her eyes are empty. Catherine had often wished that she had dreamed this dream. How she longed to look at those features again. They seemed so familiar. But every time the dream ended the same. Catherine lies in the pouring rain on the road, next to the smoking car, and the woman laughs and goes into the darkness. Further, the picture is obscured by other shadows that whisper something. Max noticed that something was wrong with his mother. She too often answers uncomprehending questions, sits at the table with an absent look. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked her once. "Maybe it's time to finish that tea of yours." "Son, I'm fine, just tired," answered the mother and squeezed out a smile. Then she went back to her thoughts. It was a hot day. Landers was bathed in greenery and freshness. Max and Angelica were walking near a lake with clear water. The girl was taking pictures of the landscape. "A little bit more and it will be possible to swim," summarized Max, taking his bare feet out of the cool water. "Aha," Angelica mumbled, pointing the lens at the horizon line. "I swim like an axe." Max raised his eyebrows in surprise. "I thought you could do everything." "That's okay, I'll teach you." Angelica smiled, but then her face stretched. Quietly, she shushed Max. He was just about to say something to the girl. "Look over there." Max carefully looked where the girl pointed her finger. An old woman in a nightgown was standing near the cliff. "Max, that's our Katie. Let's go to her." They ran as fast as they could toward the cliff. The woman looked confused. She looked at the couple as if she was seeing them for the first time. "Grandma, what are you doing here?" Max took her under his arm affectionately. Angelica froze. "And who will you be, son?" The woman smiled at him. Her gaze was not focused on a specific target. "Don't you remember? I'm Max." The guy shook the old woman. "Remember?" Katie suddenly shoved Max away from her. Angelica gasped in surprise. "You're a witch's brat," Kathy growled angrily. "And your mother is a witch. You should have kicked her out of the village a long time ago." "What are you talking about?" the boy exclaimed. "Hey!" The woman scrutinized the boy. "You don't look like your mother, you look like your grandmother. The same nose, eyes, face. And that look? Scorching." The old woman's eyes were finally able to focus. She looked straight into Max's face. Her gaze was blank. The guy was scared shitless. "Angelica, let's take her to the hospital. She's obviously not in good health," he whispered to the girl. She nodded fearfully, but took the old woman under her arm and tried to lead her away from the dangerous place. The cliff was high, and it was possible to crash on the sharp ledges before reaching the water. Katie yanked her arm out sharply and shrieked, "Let me die in peace. Go on your way. Max, your mother didn't tell you anything, but she's a real witch. She went to Glafira and she told her the truth. I know her because I followed your mother that night. I knew she was an evil force. and you are its fruit. Ugh. She turned sharply to Angelica. Run away, girl. Run away from him. You're in great danger. He'll kill you. The old woman began to tear her hair out. She broke free from Max's grasp and threw herself off the cliff. A second, and there was a deafening splash. The echo of her scream was still in the air. Angelica sat down on the ground and screamed in terror. Max ran to the cliff below and saw a doll's body gently circling in the lake. So much for swimming, he whispered. Max, let's get out of here. Angelica trembled like an aspen leaf in the wind. They hurried out of the scary place. Max hugged Angelica, but she could not cope well with her condition. Max, let's go to the police, she whispered, I should say. Yes, let's go, supported her boyfriend. When they left the station, Angelica said goodbye to Max and decided to go home. I'm sorry, I can't, she cried. The guy hugged her. I understand. Go home. I need to ask my mother. What if Katie's delusions aren't delusions at all, but the truth? Angelica nodded, and they went their separate ways. Catherine sat at home and watched television. The machine, which showed only black and white images, was not working well today. But Catherine was in her thoughts. The silence was interrupted by a loud rumble in the hallway. The woman jumped up and went into the room. On the threshold stood the son. Max, are you out of your mind? I'm sorry, Mom. Accidentally caught the hanger. I'll fix it. How's Angelica? Did you go for a walk? Yeah, quietly answered the guy. Catherine looked up. Something was wrong in his voice. Something wrong, son. Mom? Katie threw herself off a cliff. What? What? Catherine approached her son. He stood with his head down. We were walking with Angelica by the lake, and then she saw that Katie was standing near the cliff in her nightie. It was weird. We went over to her. She started screaming something weird. I thought she was crazy. What was she saying? Max? The woman asked. Her hands were shaking. Katie had always been good to her, helping her through a difficult situation. What made her throw herself off a cliff? Well, she said I was the son of a witch. That you're a witch. That I didn't know a lot of things. And that Angelica would die because of me. What could that mean? Catherine slowly sat down in the chair. Her mind was chaotically flickering between whether to say something or not. But how did Catherine know what Glafira was talking about? Everything is extremely strange. Son, Catherine began slowly. I know you can't believe it right now. But Kathy was right. I did indeed recognize that I have a gift. But I don't know how to deal with it. Hence my headaches. I went to the witch, and she told me everything. Bullshit, Max shouted. What are you talking about, May? That old, out of her mind, old woman told you about her crazy fantasies. No, stubbornly said Catherine. I have after her magic potion headache stopped. Migraines no longer torment. Where is this tea? Max ran around the room looking for a bag. Give it to me. You're imagining things. Max, stop it. Yes, we were at the old soccer field for a walk. You know Angelica likes to take pictures of everything. So we went for a walk. Mom, it's okay. Catherine looked carefully at his son. It seemed that she did not quite trust the guy. Mom, I'm telling you, everything is fine. I'm terribly hungry and sleepy, trying to look cheerful and carefree, said Max. Will you feed your son? Catherine caught up, fussed around her son. The evening ended with a joint review of the movie on the old player. Max found the equipment at the flea market. The guy sat next to his mother, who enthusiastically commented on each scene of his favorite series. The main thing, to find money for tickets. And don't tell my mother, she won't let me go. It's only a little bit left to pass exams to get a certificate. And then go ahead on the search for Granny. The schoolyard was buzzing. Today is the last exam. And freedom. No more homework to do. No more coming early to school. The sun was pleasing with its warmth. Girls dressed up in thin white blouses and smart skirts. Guys, at the sight of such beauties, threw their crowning jokes and fooled around, wanting to attract the attention of the girls. Angelica and Max stood far away from everyone. They had long been called Romeo and Juliet by everyone in the class. And there was some truth in those names, taken from Shakespeare's famous play. The parents of the couple didn't want the children to meet. More precisely, did not want Selena, Angelica's mother. As the woman had promised, she didn't sell groceries to Catherine. "Go somewhere else, you fool," she yelled when she saw Catherine walking toward the store. Max had to go to the district center for shopping himself, but he even enjoyed it. Angelica ran away from home, despite her mother's threats to sit chained up, and the couple walked around, enjoying their new surroundings. Well, that's it. Fixing Angelica's curled set behind the horizon, listen to the birds singing. The field smelled of hay and alfalfa, and somewhere in the distance a rooster crowed. Max loved his village, no matter what. He waited for Angelica and remembered how with his mother they used to go for forest berries in the same warm evenings, picking mushrooms in damp ravines. The boy was no longer afraid of the dark, of spiders. He knew that by the location of moss on the trees, you can find out where the north is and get out of any forest thicket if you got lost in the forest paths. But now the forest breathed a thaw, a death on the boy. Somewhere out there, in the thick bushes, stands a hut, and there's a witch in it, and her soul is wandering around. "Hi," Angelica covered the guy's eyes, quietly coming up behind him. "Angelica, don't scare me like that." Max jerked in surprise. "How is your mother? Let her in." "Let her try not to let her in." The girl threatened the void with her finger and laughed. "So where shall we go?" "Let's go to our lawn," said the boy. They wandered slowly. Clothes clung to the tall grass. Angelica gently pressed against the guy and was silent. "I want to be yours tonight," she suddenly blurted out. "What do you mean?" Max asked. "You're strange today." "Listen, my mother scolds me all the time, recently even raised her hand. I want to dot all the I's and dot all the T's, to tell her that we've already had everything, that I'm not a virgin." "Oh, there you go. Well, you could just tell her. That's all." "Lie." "Max," Angelica sighed, "your favorite girl offers herself to you, and you're stupid." The guy put his arm around Angelica. They stood for a long time, watching the sun set behind the horizon. It was gradually getting darker. The shepherds were shouting as they drove the cattle into the village from the pasture. "People murdered. They killed the witch." A woman screamed nearby. Max and Angelica froze in place. Someone had gone to the old woman for a potion and found a breathless body. "Max," Angelica said quietly, "let's go and hear what people are saying." They rushed quickly. The grass stiffened their movements. Angelica was out of breath. People were already gathering on the main street of Landers. In the center of the crowd stood Selena, Angelica's mother. She was wringing her hands and shouting, "The witch has been killed. Do you realize what's going to happen now? Her soul will take vengeance on everyone. She was a black witch, wasn't she? Who did this? The people." Everyone was silent. The men waved their hands. Women cried. The witch was not loved, but respected. The old woman was able to heal many people with the help of her herbs and potions. Who could have done it? The old woman didn't bother anyone. Whose hands were itching? There was outrage in the crowd. Someone shouted, "Well, thank God. Now the witch will be brought before the court to be fried in a frying pan." "Ha! Shut up, you old goat," Celine cursed. She had already stopped wailing and now listened to what people were saying. "People, we should probably go to the police. Maybe she didn't hit her head on that corner," Selena suggested. "Come on, we need a collective statement. Sign for me, because I can't spell." "Evan," the local drunk shouted. "Polka, how did you find the witch? Did you go to her to pray for your sins?" Giggled one of the young women. "It's none of your business," said the fat one. "Shut your mouth." Catherine also came to the crowd. "What happened here?" she asked Evdokia, the local gossip. "Somebody killed a witch. Apparently, she didn't guess as well as she should." Catherine was dizzy with surprise. No way. Gladfara promised to give the address of her witch grandmother when the time came. Now it was all gone. The woman gripped her head with her hands. Max saw his mother in the crowd and hurried out of sight. He and Angelica quickly separated from the main mass of people and walked down the main street. "What will happen now?" Angelica asked quietly. "What if my mother files a police report? We'll go to jail. The house is full of our fingerprints. That's why we have to get out of here. We'll go to Chicago to look for my grandmother," Max said firmly. He furrowed his brow and thought, "We need to pack up and run at the crack of dawn. Are you okay with me? Angelica shrank into a ball. I wish her mother had noticed. I'll go through her things, see if I can find some money. That's good. I know where my mother's stash is. She hides all of her savings in the linen closet. I'll take some. Try to take less stuff you don't need. Meet me at the bus stop at dawn. I'll wait till the last possible moment. If you don't show up, I'll drive myself. Angelica sobbed. Good. If only everything would work out. Max walked the girl to the gate and kissed her. Even if it doesn't work out, I'll come home to you. I love you. Mother wasn't home yet. Apparently, she'd stayed with the other landers at the council meeting. The kitchen was clean and smelled of soup. Max ate and went to his mother's room. He easily found an envelope of money. Without counting, took a small amount of bills and stuffed it into his pants pocket. In the bedroom, Max paced frantically from corner to corner thinking about what to take with him on the road. How good it was that he and Angelica were already 18 years old. No one would bother them on the road. Where are you going? And where are your parents? The guy found his old hiking backpack and began to collect things. Passport, money, phone charger, underwear, a few pants and sweaters, socks. I hadn't forgotten about the witch's notebook. He looked around like everything. The boy hid the backpack under the bed and began to write a note to his mother. My sweet mom, I'm sorry to make you worry. Angelica and I have left. Don't look for us. The time will come we will come back on our own. The only thing I want is to know more about our family. Bye, Mom. I love you very much. Max put the note under the night lamp. He was about to go to bed when an excited Catherine came into the room. Are you still awake? She asked and carefully adjusted Max's blanket. No, Mom. How are you? I'm fine. How was the last exam? Did you pass? Yes. You know I'm your excellent. Catherine smiled. Well done. I knew that you will do well. And then how? It's already time to think about enrollment. Max hesitated. Yeah, what kind of admission is there? Not today. Tomorrow a criminal case would be opened against the witch, and he and Angelica would probably become the main suspects. If only his mother knew. Mom, I haven't decided yet. It is necessary to go to the capital, decisively said his mother. There are more opportunities for you. You won't live in such poverty like me. Mom, stop lecturing me. I want to sleep. Yes, son, I'm going to bed now. By the way, do you know what happened in the village? No, Max lied. What happened? Alcoholics at the store fighting over a bottle again. Our witch was sent to the other world, said Catherine with obvious bitterness in her voice. Can you imagine? Who was she bothering? Max felt that his face was thickly flushed. It was good that the room was dark. Wow, that's really weird. I thought she lived in the middle of the woods. Who was she bothering? Look, Mom. I mean, the village women used to go to her. I mean, even Selena, mother. I know from Angelica that woman used to go there a lot. Maybe she killed her. Not likely. Catherine shook her head. Selena was very upset about Glaphyra's death. I understand they had a good relationship. Yes. Then why is Selena treating you badly? You're a witch now too, aren't you? Catherine sighed and stood up. Okay, I'll leave you alone. You're tired. Rest. Good night, son. And you good night, Mom. I love you very much. Catherine smiled and went out. Good sweet mommy, if only you didn't get sick with grief after I leave for the unknown, thought Max, staring at the ceiling. The moon was shining very brightly tonight. Tree branches and moonlight created a real theater of shadows on the walls and ceiling of the bedroom. Max fell asleep only in the morning. The morning met Max with thick fog and coolness. The guy stood at the bus stop and listened to the morning rustles. Nature was waking up little by little. Roosters were crowing in the village. People were leading cows to pasture. Well, where are you? Didn't you get away? The bus will be here soon. Max gazed into the thick fog, hoping to catch a glimpse of Angelica's familiar, graceful figure. In the distance, he heard the rumble of a bus. Angelica! Max shouted into the void. Max, I'm here, I'm running. Phew, here she is, so sleepy and disheveled. She's carrying a huge backpack. Max rushed over and gave her a big hug. I thought you weren't coming. It's done, Angelica said cheerfully. The bus, slowly rattling rusty parts, pulled up to the stop. Max and Angelica quickly got in and took seats at the very end of the cabin. The driver looked at them curiously. What, young people? Have you passed your exams? Now you can go for a walk, right? Where is my youth? The bus drove along the main road of the village and got on the highway. Goodbye, my native home. Angelica looked at it with a hazy look. We'll come back here again. Max put his arm around her shoulders. When things calm down and I find my grandmother, I'll bring her here to my mother. The bus took them quickly to the district center. Max found the ticket office. 2 tickets to Chicago, please. No problem, just show your passports, young people, said the strict cashier. I had to pull out my documents. Angelica's passport was at the bottom of her backpack. I was so afraid that I would forget about it that I put the passport in the first place. The girl smiled. The tickets were bought. All that was left was to wait. Angelica bought a pie at the cafe and they found a cozy place in the farthest corner of the waiting room. Angelica was visibly worried. When she saw the police patrol, she hid her head in her shoulders. Max, police. The guy looked in the direction of the patrol. The officers were strolling calmly and talking about something cheerfully. Calm down, eat better. It's a long drive. He kissed the girl on the lips. She calmed down a little. It was a long drive to Chicago. It took several days. Behind the windows, the steppe and forest were gradually replaced by factories and residential neighborhoods. Angelica was always dozing. It was her first big road into the unknown. Chicago met the couple with its shouting, noise, and clamor. The station was moving. People were seeing them off, greeting them. Noisy food vendors moved nimbly in this clattering hive of activity. Max, where to next? Angelica had asked. We're going to look for the street. I hope Grandma isn't dead yet. Max and Angelica asked local vendors for directions to the address. There was an old streetcar running past Max's grandmother's house. It was a long ride. The driver waved his hand in the distance. The 23rd house is a little farther away. Go ahead. There will be a house on the left. You won't be mistaken. Max walked ahead and his heart twitched. I wonder how grandmother will react to unexpected guests, he thought. Angelica was tiredly shuffling her feet behind her, and the boy took the heavy backpack from her. The house at number 23 was quite old, but it was drowning in flowers. There were roses, daisies, peonies, and gladioluses proudly stretching out their heads everywhere you looked. Beautiful, Angelica said. She looked around the house with delight. There was a bell on the gate. Max pressed the button a few times and music was heard in the house. I'm coming. Who came here so early? A woman came out on the porch. She looked to be about 40 years old at most. She looked at Max and Angelica with interest. What do you want, young people? Good afternoon, began Max. Does Veronica Stone live here? Yes, here, answered the woman, but she is asleep now and doesn't see anyone. Come back later. Max hesitated. We're here to see her about a very personal matter. I may be her grandson. Let us come in, please. The woman sighed. All right, relatives, come in. You've gotten on my head. The old woman said she had no one. Her daughter died of cancer recently. She didn't mention anyone else. Daughter? Does that mean my possible aunt? Thought Max and went into the yard. The house was quiet and very clean. It smelled of medicine. Veronica has been ill for a very long time, the woman said quietly. I'm looking after her. She promised me the house. By the way, she must be awake by now. I'll go check on her. Max, I'm scared, Angelica hissed. She looked around anxiously, like a hunted animal. The guy put a finger to her lips and smiled. The woman came out of the bedroom. The landlady wants to see you urgently, she said in surprise. Go yourself, Angelica muttered, and Max nodded in agreement. It was stuffy in the bedroom, despite the open window. On the small bed lay a skinny old woman. She seemed to be glowing through and through. Max's attention was drawn to Veronica's eyes, which were black as coals. The old woman smiled with her toothless mouth and gestured for the boy to sit on a chair near her bed. I've been told that a relative has come to see me. Who are you going to be? Stone Max, your own grandson. The old lady lost her sweet smile. Her mouth is rounded. You're Catherine's son. Yes, the only one. The old woman was silent. Her eyes alone studied Max from head to toe. How did you find me? A sorceress gave me the address. Glafara, Veronica asked. Yes. Well, if you're here, Then Glafira is no longer alive. Don't be afraid of me, grandson. I'm a witch too. Glafira must have told you. That's why I know and see everything. I won't give you and your friend up. Don't worry. You didn't mean it. Grandma, why didn't you look for us? Max asked. The old woman furrowed her brow and twirled the ring on her finger. It caught the boy's eye at once, thin, elegant, with a red ruby. There was a reason for that. You see, we witches are not so simple in life. Sometimes you have to part with your family for their good. How's your mother? Is she like me? Does she do this? Max shook his head. No, not yet. I don't want her to. People drove our witch into the forest. I don't want my mother to live there. Son, that depends on your mom. How she'll handle herself in the village. If she wants to, everyone will come to her for help on their knees. If she doesn't want to, they'll chase her away. The old woman closed her eyes and took a breath. It was hard for her to talk. I have devoted my whole life to sorcery. Everyone was drawn to me. I helped everyone. And now they come to me when I'm in good health. You can't survive in this world without magic, grandson. Sometimes ordinary pills don't help, but a kind word and the support of spirits work wonders. Max smiled. Tell me, did you come alone? No, with my girlfriend. She is sitting in the other room. The old woman smiled. Well done. I knew the stones were masters of lovemaking, except my Vittoria didn't get to be happy. She died of cancer. Veronica dropped a tear. You know, she continued, I don't have much time left. My greatest secret to success in life is this ring. The old lady showed Max that dainty ring. And how does it help you? It grants all my wishes. You know, I recently wished for you to find me. See? You're here, so the ring is working. The old lady took a little breath and continued. I know that you and your girlfriend have a very good relationship. Isn't it time for you to get married? You're completely right for each other. Well, we haven't gotten together yet. Max began longingly, but Veronica interrupted him. Grandson, I'm so looking forward to catching your wedding. My life has turned out so that I spent more time on other people's problems, and there was no energy left for my family. Would you please make your grandmother happy? I will bequeath your fiancé my ring. The old woman breathed deeply again. All right. Go now. Get some rest. Barbara, take the young people to the guest room, please. I want to rest. The room was very cozy. Max fell on the bed with pleasure and pulled Angelica with him. They hugged each other and fell asleep. Max woke up to someone tugging on his shoulder. It was Barbara in her nightie. She was crying. Veronica, dead. Max quickly sat up on the bed. I went into her room and she looked at me so pitifully and said, I can't breathe at all. When I die, let Max take my ring and give it to his bride. There's a lot of power in that ring. And she said that and gave up her last breath. Barbara sobbed. Max woke Angelica. It took her a long time to realize where she was. Grandmother is dead, Max whispered. Oh no, Angelica cried. How awful. Max got dressed and quickly went into the old lady's bedroom. She looked very much like Glafira. It seemed that Veronica had just fallen asleep. The guy stroked her hair and hands. Goodbye, Grandma. I found you and lost you. The funeral was scheduled for tomorrow. Max, along with Barbara, was in charge of organizing the funeral. Angelica was in charge of the wake. Barbara said a lot of people would come. Veronica had healed almost half the town. Before the funeral, Max went into the deceased's room to say goodbye alone. That's it, Grandma. He kissed Veronica on the forehead. His gaze fell on the ring on her skinny finger. I'll do as you asked, the young man whispered. He carefully removed the ring from his grandmother's hand and went to Angelica. Strangely, it seemed to Max that the ring burned his hands with something hot, even though it was cold to the touch. Angelica was standing in the kitchen. She was writing something on a piece of paper. Honey, I have a very important conversation with you. Max gently hugged the girl and kissed her. I know this is not a good time. I asked for your hand. He held out his grandmother's ring to Angelica. It sparkled ominously, exuding a tantalizing glow. Max, don't answer anything yet. Just put it on and think about it. I'm not rushing you. I just love you very much. Veronica asked me very much that you wear the ring. It's a family heirloom. Max, I can't accept it. You what? It must be so expensive and valuable. And if I lose it? The guy kissed the girl and carefully put the ring on Angelica's ring finger. "We'll be all right now," he said confidently. Veronica was buried by the whole town. A lot of people gathered. Everyone carried flowers and wreaths. Angelica was with Max the whole time. She was very pale. Many people came to the wake at the old witch's house. Angelica and Barbara served plates of pancakes, pies, memorial cutia. It was only towards evening that the young people were able to breathe out. Angelica lay on the bed and breathed heavily. Max looked at her anxiously. "My dear, are you not feeling well?" "Yes, I guess the road and all the packing for the funeral have affected me. I'm going to get some sleep, okay?" "Sure, I'll lie down with you." Angelica fell asleep quickly. Max tossed and turned all night. He had nightmares. The morning greeted him with cold and anxiety. Angelica lay next to him without moving. She was unconscious. Angelica. Max shook the girl vigorously. "Angelica. Barbara. Angelica is not regaining consciousness." Barbara slowly entered the room. Surprisingly, she was very calm. "She's not going to regain consciousness." "Barbara, what are you talking about?" "What?" "Angelica, wake up." Barbara's face contorted with a grimace of triumph. The mistress was right. Now the ring was destroyed. It would never hurt anyone again. All her life, she couldn't part with it. It was waiting only for her, your bride. Max stared at the woman in horror. "This is crazy. Call an ambulance now." Angelica lay there like a wax doll. Her heart was no longer beating. Max frantically remembered Glafira, the way she laid out the dolls, one of them with a needle in her heart. Was it really a joint cunning plan of the sorceresses? His head spun and Max stopped feeling anything. No. Max jumped up on the bed and looked around in horror. There was no one in the bed but him. The sun was shining brightly through the window, and birds were singing through the open window. The room smelled of freshness and lavender. It was strange. He'd been mourning Angelica a second ago, and Barbara was standing over him, laughing wickedly. Where had it all gone? The boy stood up and found his clothes. He dressed quickly and went into the kitchen. Around the table, two children, a girl and a boy, were frolicking. They were noisily chasing a black kitten. He meowed pitifully and hid under the table. There was a girl standing by the stove. "Angelica. Angelica, are you?" With a convulsive sigh, Max asked the girl. "Jesus, I saw you dead. You weren't breathing." A haunting thought ran through his head. The girl turned around. It was Angelica, but a little different, more mature or something. "Max, I've told you 100 times to stop taking sleeping pills. You're already hallucinating." "Of course it's me." She laughed and hugged the guy. "And these are these our children?" "Yes, my love. Meet Kirill. And there's Olzia." "And are we married?" Angelica looked anxiously at Max. "Are you all right? No fever?" "We've been married for several years, and I gave you 2 beautiful children." Max froze. How? So a few years had just slipped his mind. But he clearly remembered the day when Angelica did not come to her senses. She was lying there so helpless. And here in front of him, in an unfamiliar apartment, stands a completely different Angelica, cheerful, energetic. "Angelica, do you remember how we went to Veronica, my grandmother?" The girl raised her eyebrows. "Okay, get ready. I don't like you at all. Now we'll send the little ones to daycare and go to the doctor." "Veronica who?" Angelica reached out to touch Max's forehead, and on her ring finger glittered a thin, dainty ruby ring, the one the old woman had bequeathed to Max before she died. Max felt completely different. He was like the doll that Glafira had molded out of wax, a whole new life, a stranger, though familiar, a wife, children. Who was he? Where was the lapse in memory? Watching his wife gather the children in the garden, Max thought, maybe it was a dream? And have I always lived here? I didn't have a mother, only a grandmother. What nonsense! Where is the line between reality and a dream? Veronica's ring had done its work. It hasn't lost any of its ability to find a new victim. It's up to you to decide what's fiction and what's reality. But the ring still travels from master to master, building the illusion of a happy family. It kills from within.